Hello, greetings, and pardon the delay. I was just about to go live, and then wasn't really an emergency, but just something that required my immediate attention. Suddenly sprang up before my eyes, and had to set me back a couple minutes. But anyways, thank you guys for being here. Hello, all. We got Lightning Rod, Microsoft Word technical support. Can't deal. What's going on? Human. Human says hashtag shut down Canada. All right. So we got some Canadians. Eh? That was my best Canadian accent impersonation. All right. We got some people here. We've got the dude here. The dude's here, so that means it's official. If the dude is here, we're ready to go. Yeah, so let's get into it because I don't have a lot of time. This is gonna be a short one again, probably shorter than yesterday. So this is from a few days ago, 5 days ago, February 12th. EU accused of climate crisis hypocrisy after backing 32 gas projects. Of course they are. Of course they are. Because that's what is expected. That's what the status quo is. That's business as usual is giving lip service and giving some attention to renewable energies and some things that are going towards saving the planet, and then after that's all said and done, or done and said, or however you want to put it, then you got to flip back over and go, guess what? We're still going to do the oil and the gas and the coal, probably. So MEPs support 29 billion euro schemes locking Europe into burning fossil fuels for generations. So that's the reality of where we're at. So if somebody's talking about we're going in the right direction, or if we're talking about even trying to go in the right direction, or if there's a possible path to the right direction, these people are closing down that path. They're just basically blocking that path. They're saying, no, that path is not open to you. Especially if they're in accord or an agreement with some kind of net zero by whatever date, 2025 or 2030 or even 2050. The EU has given its formal backing to 32 major gas infrastructure projects in a move critics say will lock Europe into burning fossil fuels for generations. MEPs voted to support the European Commission's proposal by 443 votes to 169 on Wednesday, with 36 abstentions, provoking environmental groups to lament Brussels' hypocrisy over the climate emergency. That's what it is. That's the reality of the state of our civilization, is a whole lot of doublespeak. Yep. So, environmental groups said gas firms were enjoying the fruits of heavy lobbying. Of course, money talks and bullshit walks. And the sector's advantageous position within the Commission's decision-making institutions. Isn't that nice? The consulting firm Artelis has claimed in a report that the majority of the projects stretching from Ireland to Croatia are, quote-unquote, unnecessary. So this is basically, money go around. Influence, money influence, corporate influence, flexing its muscles and just saying we're gonna keep on investing in these things that are killing the planet. And there ain't shit you can do about it. Ain't a goddamn thing, because that's pretty much an overwhelming majority of 443 to 169 is a pretty large majority there. Echoes of Not says money got in their eyes. How did this get here? Ouch. Lightning Rod, do you think we will ever prosecute these criminals? Unless there is some way to overcome these criminals and get people into power who are on the side of the common, folks, and do the bidding of the people, right? And say, look, this is illegal. These things are criminal activities. These are crimes against not just humanity, but crimes against nature and the future of civilization and the future of all life on Earth. That should be a pretty big crime. Nobody has the huevos or the rancheros. You know what I'm saying? Jeff Bezos announced $10 billion to climate change solutions. What a joke, indeed. I mean, it's 10 billion, but 10 billion to climate change solutions sounds like we're going to give $10 billion to a bunch of people to sit around and talk about some good ideas. You know what I mean? And, some of this money might actually end up, funding some kind of projects or studies, whatever. Some experimentation, if you will, but is that $10 billion really going to go to climate change solutions, or is it going to go to greasing the wheels of, capital? My guess is it's going to go to greasing the wheels. I keep coming back. This is somewhat connected, but I keep coming back to the fact that California has a Democratic super majority, meaning we are such a Democratic state, such a blue state. It would be like if, in England, if Labor just had an overwhelming majority all the time and, was always in power. We have an overwhelming Democratic government in California, and we still can't get shit done, right? We're still always having a budget shortfall. There's never enough money for schools. Schools are being closed down in my city. There's constantly closing public schools and opening charter schools, or private schools are opening. They're just there's not money for roads. There's no money for health care. We're supposed to have Medicare for all in California, right? Like that resolution was passed years ago, but then they pass these great resolutions, and then the moneyed interests get in there and they start buying off all the politicians, and then somebody goes, yeah, we really can't, we thought we were going to do this, but we're not going to do this, so sorry. And what's amazing is that we have a Democratic supermajority, and yet we're still operating as if Republicans are in power. No, we're still operating as if they're still operating as bought and sold politicians, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't matter if you're, super liberal in California. You're still voting for, whoever's in control of the money, whoever's got the purse strings, hold of the purse strings is the one that controls what happens. And so it's still even incredibly hard to have super progressive things going on in California. Even with all the Democrats in power. So that shows you how full of shit Democrats are. It's what kind of Democrat are you? Or could we have another party in power like the Greens or, Anybody. Hello? Anybody? Hello? Always been about the power. Fun Game says always been about the power, and they end it for all of us. So unfair, the rich only take. Indeed. So, and that truly is, that's the crux of the problem. That's, to harp on it again. This is the message that Bernie Sanders has been bringing to people for the last 4 or 5 years, at least on a national level. Like, hey, look, there's this whole apparatus of oligarchs or elites in power, and they control everything. And, we somehow have to get in there and stand up against them. Are they going to let them? It's more and more looking like maybe not. Maybe that won't happen, even though he's the front runner, even though he has overwhelming support of the American people. They're still going to screw him out of this. They're going to still fuck around and screw him out of this. Very, very likely. Human says no separation, one people, one planet, one love. And that was in response to someone, I believe, right? Hey Jude says follow the money donation trail of Bezos. Watch it end up back in his pocket and lining the few of his politician friends and entrepreneurs. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's just, it's just a big old budget for some people to just, do a whole lot of nothing. Or to, act as a cover for, some kind of other political gambit, right? We've got this $10 billion set aside here. We'll take some of that money and, throw it behind, this campaign or that, whatever. After $10 billion is spent, Jeff Bezos will look at Australian ash pile and say, yep, looks like we're screwed. Microsoft Word technical support says it's too little, too late. It needs to be a global scale, New Deal style realignment, which could actually happen when things get real bad. Maybe so. And that is my hope against all hope, is that there is some kind of, mass awakening. It's starting. It's there. The American people like what Bernie Sanders is saying. What Bernie Sanders is saying is ringing very, very true with a majority of Americans. I'm just talking about the United States. But progressive, alternative policies, real left ideas are making a comeback all over the globe. The problem is that you have, the fascist military-industrial complex and all these corporations, this global web of corporations, in league with the United States military-industrial complex, just running around and just taking out whoever it is they can take out. Taking out Evo Morales and trying to take out Maduro, and they can't quite, go over to Europe and take out. They're not going to take out democratic socialists in European countries, but they're totally doing it by propaganda, of course. Neoliberalism is happening everywhere. Rolf Jander says starting to think Bernie could take the White House, so there could be hope. I think that he could. It's just that I'm seeing, and a lot of people are talking about the fact that the rigging, the election rigging, is starting to ramp up full scale. It looks like there was some kind of funny business in New Hampshire as well. And here's another very frightening bit of information, is that the Democratic Party has canceled exit polling from the primaries, meaning that they don't want anybody checking the exit polls against the actual polls, meaning if we cheat, we don't want anybody finding out we're cheating. That's basically what they're trying to say. And it looks like the Nevada caucus is coming up Saturday, and they're already, they're lining up that caucus to be an absolute shit show of chaos. what happened in Iowa we could actually see a repeat of that in Nevada, and it's looking like they're really trying to make that happen. But we shall see, man. I mean, keep the faith. Power to the people. 15,000 at Bernie's rally in Tacoma. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Environmental Coffee House, Sanda. Kent Deal says we passed real bad decades ago. We are in the don't panic phase now. Yeah, I feel you, Sandy. I get, Sandy says, I get so inspired. I need that purpose. Totally. Yeah, I get super inspired. I get really, that's why I watch Extinction Rebellion videos is, whenever I do, I'm just like, shit, fuck, damn, we got to do something. Rolf Jander says every smear campaign against Bernie is backfiring. That's true. And also, Bernie Sanders is going on TV, and the mainstream media is like running all this bullshit, these bullshit talking points, framing at him, and he's like, no. He's just on there just telling the truth, and they can't say anything to him. They get shut down every time he's on the television. So I'm wondering how many more times they're going to allow him to be on TV. They're going to try and find a way to maybe not bring him on, because every time he does, he shuts people down. But this would be a wonderful thing to see, like if he won the primaries and he was running against Trump, how quickly and easily he would shut down Trump. He would just shut down Trump in a second. Anyways, man, hope against hope. Yes, Trev B5, app 2.0 in Nevada. I just saw a clip of a news story where one of the people that was, involved in running the Nevada caucus was saying, we don't have the app yet. It's not tested. We don't know how to run the app. And this was a week away from the caucus. On national TV, he's saying, we don't know what's going on. We don't know when we're going to get the app. We don't know how to use it. We don't know if it's going to work. This is an election for the president of the United States of America. And these guys are running it like a third-rate rock concert. I mean, they're just like, we don't know, does anybody have their tickets? Did you guys print out your tickets? We don't even know. We don't have anything to scan your tickets with, so not sure. Exactly, the dude. Guy, Sanders looks unstoppable. Okay, then we have no choice. Release the virus. So here's the deal. Bernie Sanders, looking good. He's rising up, his legions of followers are massing underneath him, pushing him up, right? But the deep state and the elites and the corporate state and the intelligence agencies, they're like, yeah, no, we got to push back against this, So it's just this rising like tension, this rising like, I don't know what you want to call it, this clash of the titans is looking like it's going to happen. I don't know. But we have to, so here's the deal. Here's our responsibility as people that are involved with alternative media, people who are watching, making, consuming, spreading, keep spreading the word about what the elites and the oligarchs are trying to do. Keep spreading the word about what the DNC is trying to do. Keep alerting people to the fact that this is some bullshit, that they're going to try and rig it. And we have to give Bernie overwhelming support. That's really what has to happen. This is a fight. This is a very important fight right now. Right now is the fight. So we really have to be involved in the fight in any possible way that we can. That's just what I got to say about that. Microsoft Word technical support. It's a tool, not an app. Hardy har 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 har. So I was going to the Dino Dog ate their app lunch. Rolf Jander, it is the most fascinating battle in the world today. Indeed it is. That's why I'm so, intrigued and wrapped up in it. Even if you don't think anything's going to change, you think we're screwed, you think there's no, Why try? There's no point. It's interesting as hell. Like if you're just watching from, if you're fly on the wall, if you're watching from, if you got your lens, the focus way out and, big picture, and you're just kind of watching this as a spectator, this is intriguing as shit. You have to admit it. Hey Jude says, yeah, how many times in the last 4 years around the world have we all been absolutely flabbergasted at the fascists continuing to get in against all odds and polls? Yes, but how many times also have the lefties won and surprised the shit out of people? AOC in New York City unseated unseated an incumbent, longtime incumbent, Democratic, establishment hack, to the surprise of everybody. You have AMLO in Mexico, who's, basically a lefty, a progressive. He won. It can happen. These things can happen. And I don't see why it can't happen here and now. Sandy Environmental Coffee House says no door-to-door for me, but phone banking from home works. Yep. Post Sanders videos on your website or forum, indeed. Yeah, this is important. This is really an important time, and right now is the time. So we have Super Tuesday coming up on March 3rd, which is like 2 weeks away. Or is it less than 2 weeks? Jeez, it's really soon. March 3rd is Super Tuesday. The majority of delegates are going to be up for grabs on that day. So that day is going to make or break the entire primary run. I mean, whoever wins overwhelmingly on that day, if Sanders can win overwhelmingly on that day, then we're looking good. Then we're in a good position. If he loses, or if it looks really close, if all the states are just really close races, that's not so good. That's not what we want. We don't want close races. We want absolute, overwhelming blowouts. But let's say he wins, the majority of the states by even slim margins. If he wins the majority of the states, he's won the majority of the states. So that's something. That's something. Does it mean that he's going to be able to go in and get the nomination in the convention? I don't know. Probably not. MWTS says give up on Moss. Oh, you just found out that Cenk was running for Congress? Yeah, Cenk has been in the race for a couple months. Actually, what happened was Bernie Sanders endorsed Cenk, and then they started smearing him on the national news, and then Cenk Uygur went to Bernie Sanders and he said, "Look, unendorse me because I don't want you to get any flack," and so he did, which was a lot of people were pissed that he did that. Bernie or bust, indeed. So let me move on to this last article before I got to sign off, guys. The child has got to go to bed, and it's late on a school night. This is from The Guardian. So this is the article. This was the best case scenario article that I was going to read today, an answer to the worst case scenario from yesterday. So, I hope you guys are ready for a lot of belly laughs on this one. The headline is, "Air is cleaner than before the Industrial Revolution." I didn't even get all the way through the whole headline. A best case scenario for the climate in 2050. Okie dokie. The future we choose. Anyways, I read that yesterday. We already know where this is coming from. It is 2050. We have been successful at halving emissions every decade since 2020. We are heading for a world that will be no more than 1.5 C warmer by 2100. Okay. We're already locked into 3C, so I don't even know what they're talking about. Are they including some kind of carbon capture in this article? What are they? I don't know. I don't know where we're going yet. In most places in the world, the air is moist and fresh, even in cities. It feels a lot like walking through a forest, and very likely this is exactly what you are doing. The air is cleaner than it has been since before the Industrial Revolution. We have trees to thank for that. They're everywhere. Well, okay, so I'm being extremely cynical in this reading. Let's say we do a massive re-greening in the next 10 years, and the result is this. Let's say we do this. Just, for shits and giggles. It wasn't the single solution we required, but the proliferation of trees brought us the time we needed to vanquish carbon emissions. I'm really glad that they made trees the carbon capture equation in this. When we started it, it was purely practical, a tactic to combat climate crisis by relocating the carbon. The trees took carbon dioxide out of the air, released oxygen, and put the carbon back where it belongs, in the soil. This, of course, helped to diminish climate crisis, but the benefits were even greater. On every sensory level, the ambient feeling of living on what has again become a green planet has been transformative, especially in cities. All right, you know what? I'm not as upset at this article as I was at the beginning, and so maybe I should take back a little bit of my guffaws. Reimagining and restructuring cities was crucial to solving the climate challenge puzzle, but further steps had to be taken, which meant that global rewilding efforts had to reach well beyond the cities. The forest cover worldwide is now 50%, and agriculture has evolved to become more tree-based. The result is that many countries are unrecognizable in a good way. No one seems to miss wide open plains or monocultures. Now we have shady groves of nut and orchards, timberland interspersed with grazing, parkland areas that spread for miles, new havens for our regenerated population of pollinators. I feel like we're living in Narnia, guys, which would be totally cool. A major part of the shift to net zero emissions was a focus on electricity. Achieving the goal required not only an overhaul of existing infrastructure, but also a structural shift. In some ways, breaking up grids and decentralizing power proved easy. We no longer burn fossil fuels. Most of our energy now comes from renewable sources such as wind, solar, geothermal, and hydro. All homes and buildings produce their own electricity. Every available surface is covered with solar paint that contains millions of nanoparticles which harvest energy from the sunlight, and every windy spot has a wind turbine. If you live on a particular sunny or windy hill, your house might harvest more energy than it can use, in which case the energy will simply flow back to the smart grid because there's no combustion cost. Energy is basically free. It is also more abundant and more efficiently used than ever. As a utopian scenario, I really am liking this because this is the only way we're going to do this, is imagining a scenario in which we save ourselves. I'm going to keep going. Homes and buildings all over the world are becoming self-sustaining far beyond their electrical needs. For example, all buildings now collect rainwater and manage their own water use. Renewable sources of electricity make possible localized desalination, which means clean drinking water can now be produced on demand anywhere in the world. We also use it to irrigate hydroponic gardens, flush toilets, and shower. Is there anything in here about the possibility that we have a lot less people on the earth? And how do we do this politically? Petrol and diesel cars are anachronisms. Most countries banned their manufacture in 2030, but it took another 15 years to get internal combustion engines off the road completely. What's strange is that it took us so long to realize that the electric motor is simply a better way of powering vehicles. It gives you more torque, more speed when you need it, and the ability to recapture energy when you brake, and it requires dramatically less maintenance. We also share cars without thinking twice. In fact, regulating and ensuring the safety of driverless ride-sharing were the biggest transportation hurdles for cities to overcome. The goal has been to eliminate private ownership of vehicles by 2050. Here. In major metropolitan areas, we're not quite there yet, but we're making progress. We've also reduced land transport needs. Drones organized along aerial corridors are now delivering packages, further reducing the need for vehicles. Thus, we are currently narrowing roads, eliminating parking spaces, and investing in urban planning projects that make it easier to walk and bike in the city. While we may have successfully reduced carbon emissions, we're still dealing with the after effects of record levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The long-living greenhouse gases have nowhere to go other than the already loaded atmosphere, so they are still causing increasingly extreme weather, though it's less extreme than it would have been had we continued to burn fossil fuels. Glaciers and Arctic ice are still melting in 2050, and the sea is still rising. Severe droughts and desertification are occurring in the western United States. The Mediterranean and parts of China, ongoing extreme weather and resource degradation continues to multiply existing disparities in income, public health, food security, and water availability. But now governments have recognized climate crisis factors for the threat multipliers that they are. The awareness allows us to predict downstream problems and head them off before they become humanitarian crises. Everyone understands that we are all in this together. A disaster that occurs in one country is likely to occur in another in only a matter of years. It took us all a while to realize if we worked out how to save the Pacific Islands from rising sea levels this year, then we might find a way to save Rotterdam in another 5 years. The zeitgeist has shifted profoundly. How we feel about the world has changed deeply and unexpectedly, so has how we feel about one another. When the alarm bells rang in 2020, and know how they rang, thanks in large part to the youth movement, we realized that we suffered from too much consumption, competition, and greedy self-interest. Our commitment to these values and our drive for profit and status had led us to steamroll our environment. As a species, we were out of control, and the result was near collapse of our world. We emerged from the climate crisis as more mature members of the community of life, capable of not only restoring ecosystems, but also unfolding our dormant potentials of human strength and discernment, whatever that means. Humanity was only ever as doomed as it believed itself to be. Vanquishing that belief was our true legacy. So, okay, I'm actually really glad that I read this. I'm sorry, I have to apologize for being as critical as I was at the beginning of this. I actually really like this article. I know that there is a lot. We're talking about a big fat pipe just stuffed to the brim, overflowing with hopium. I know there's a lot of that going on here. But I just have to say, I rather liked this take on how this unfolded. I also like the fact that they're imagining a road, a path, and that really is the only way to do it. But the thing is how do we get from, they're saying the climate alarm bells rang in 2020. So how do we make this massive sea change within 10 years, maybe by 2030, of, converting every car to electric? And there's nothing in here about population. There are a lot of things that are left out of this. So, give me your critiques, guys, very quickly, because I've got about 5 minutes before I got to sign off. CB Unglesby says, a dream. It's a nice dream, yeah? Environmental Coffee House says NASCAR is going EV. They see the writing on the wall. If we don't go extinct before NASCAR does, we may see them racing electric cars. That would actually be pretty cool. I don't really care about NASCAR, though. I think that there's, maybe that's a good marketing campaign for electric cars. But I mean, we really need all hands on deck, and we really need people to be growing food and, converting their communities into, off-grid, completely, self-sustainable environments, right? That's what we need. We need people to be permaculturing literally everywhere. We need people out, planting these trees and these orchards. If people are sitting around watching TV, watching people race NASCAR electric cars, I mean, I feel like that's not a step up, but a step sideways, maybe. Anyways, but it's interesting nonetheless. Aaron Jackson says, I want hopium. Damn it, I want a whole bunch of hopium. I want a whole bunch delivered to my door, right? Pot's legal in California. You can get pot delivered to your door. I want a big fat bag of hopium, right? Rolf Jander says, it is a beautiful dream and just barely possible if we start right now. Right now. Indeed. I mean, and if we started right now, right now, it still may not work. It may work. It may not work. The thing is we wouldn't know if it worked unless we actually started right now. Henry Holt, yes, Kevin, grow local communities. Indeed, like that really has to happen. It really, really has to happen. It's the only way it's going to happen. If we have, if there are just hundreds of communities, around the world just popping up and becoming examples for how people can live, right? Outside of the whole thing, right? The whole thing. The whole thing that includes NASCAR or, professional sports or, whatever, or, rock bands, musicians traveling the world in airplanes, because they can. Hollywood, filmmaking, all this stuff. Like, we need to have communities that are built around completely different things than all of that shit. All of that shit. Carbon taxes. Kent Deal says carbon taxes of $24,000 a ton. Yeah. That might do it. Anthony Gonzalez Gilbert says a pandemic could kickstart the total renewable revolution. Maybe. I don't know. Anthony Gonzalez Gilbert says eliminate socialism for the rich and provide it for the rest of us. Indeed. I mean, I can see this transition. The thing is the problem is that you have the people that control the levers of power are the ones that are standing in the way of this happening. And they have a lot of money and a lot of power, and they're just not going to let it happen. Or even if it could happen, they're going to make sure that it happens so slowly that we don't get to do it in time. So, where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? Excuse me. Creative experiments, and we need to start right now. Oh, wait, we already have the technology. We just don't want to get up and work to fix it. Can't deal. Just wait until things warm up another degree. And then, yeah, well, so that's that's the thing is that we have a limited amount of time before climate chaos and constant climate disasters make it impossible for us to actually organize enough to do these things that might lead us down the golden path to, we have the ability right now to do this. So, if we can do it now before we reach that point of no return, we might actually possibly, maybe, who knows? I mean, this is the only time we got. The only time we have is now. Kent Deal says it will be a very messy transition at best. Well, of course, I'm sure. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of like, oops, wrong turns and oh, fuck me's. The dude says the bigger the ship, the harder to turn. Icebergs, bah, full steam ahead. Microsoft Word technical support. I ride goats only. Better for mountains. Echoes of not. It's here. Look at Mississippi. Yeah, I mean, it's here. It's here. It's here, but we still have, a connected, functioning civilization. We haven't completely collapsed. Anyways, I just wanted to read that out for you. I don't know if you guys enjoyed that or if you just think it's, boiled rope lamppost says invest in soil right now. If it's possible, I don't know. It's just, they detailed something of a, something of a rosy path to actually having a future. Just food for thought. And, I thought it might be good to read the other side of the story. Thanks, guys. I got to take off. And, I've reached the witching hour, my witching hour. And thank you all for joining me tonight. Appreciate you. I think we made it to about 40 minutes, which is probably about 20 minutes longer than I wanted to go. But But anyways, have a good one, guys. I will see you tomorrow, and peace out.